Ravens flock. We just witnessed the game of the year. Ravens just beat the Rams 37-31, thanks to overtime punt return touchdown by Tylen Wallace. Shout out to Tylen Wallace. I know he's definitely frustrated that he hasn't been given much of an opportunity since he's been in the league the past couple years, since he's been drafted. But he got a moment. He got an opportunity because unfortunately Devin Duvernay had like a back injury early in the game, so he became the replacement punt returner, and he just had the play of his life in a game that was just way more dramatic than I was expecting it to be. Obviously it was like rain all day. It wasn't too bad in the first half, but still it was rainy and misty. You're not expecting it to be so much of a shootout, but nonetheless, it was still like an amazing game. Now obviously we advanced to 10-3. We're first in the AFC. The Jaguars lost another game. The Dolphins, they haven't played yet, but I'm gonna just we're all gonna cross our fingers and hope they drop their next game. But we are in the driver's seat. We are fully in the driver's seat for this number one seed. This is another reason why I absolutely want the number one seed. We're averaging over 30 points a game at home. We only score more or less 21 on the road. Not that we can't win on the road, but again, I think a lot of people gotta let go of the underdog mentality and just understand that it would absolutely benefit us to have a playoff run in the bank. It would be a big deal. I know everybody's still thinking about 2019, but at the same time, it's a new day. We are much tougher because of that. And I think games like this, moments like this, the energy inside the bank that we all just everything that we just saw, I do believe is why we absolutely should try our hardest to maintain this one seed, which I think we will. Just to get into some of the stats for the game, Lamar finished 24 for 43, 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. He was sacked 2 times. He also Lamar rushed for 70 yards on 11 attempts. Keaton Mitchell and Gus Edwards both had relatively quiet games. Keaton had 54 yards. Gus had 15. Like again, like I said, we did not run it nearly as much as I anticipated we would. But then on the flip side of that, I also think that just from watching the game as a fan, it did low key look like the Rams were selling out against the run and were trying to stop it by any means necessary. Again, I'm not like the film guy, but again, that's the way it looked to me, and I think that's what Munkin was trying to react to, and I think Munkin caught on to that early and just took what the defense gave him. We took a lot of deep shots down the field. Unfortunately, it's again the deep shot still hasn't been here, still hasn't really been there for us, which isn't just a Ravens problem. Like the only teams that I've really seen consistently get deep shots to connect this year, and I've watched a lot of games. The only teams I've really seen consistently get it is like the Niners and then sometimes the Chiefs, but again, not so much really. Like of course, across the league, teams are having problems connecting this year. It could just simply be just a coincidence, but I still was happy that we were still being that aggressive, going downfield, trying to keep the minus, trying to be explosive, make those explosive plays. But again, it just the connection still hasn't been there so far. Two of those deep shots, Lamar was trying to get it out to Rashad Bateman. And it seems like so far that's what Munkin's plan is for Rashad Bateman, is to just make him the deep ball guy, which makes sense because, again, when you're watching some of these games, even though they're not targeting Bateman like that, Bateman is getting a lot of separation. He is getting open. Not so much in this game, but over the course of the season overall, his confidence has been back. He has gotten a lot of separation. When you're watching these games, he's getting open. But it just seems like we're just so close. We are just so close between Lamar and Bateman making that deep connection, but it still just hasn't hit yet. I do want them to keep going back to it, but at the same time, I do want them to try to diversify how they use Bateman, throw him in some of those some of those screen passes, throw him into some of those jet sweep scenarios like what happened about a month or so ago when he got like that 18-yard game. Those are definitely the things I want to see. But as far as our deep passes, we did connect on two though. We got one to Isaiah Likely from just the Rams just having a complete blown coverage. They completely forgot about Likely. He's wide open, like 30 something yards down the field. Lamar hit him. We scored. That was like in the first quarter, early in the game. and then also a deep touchdown pass to Odell Beckham Jr. in the game. He had a good game. He caught what, 4 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had 5 receptions, 83 yards for a touchdown. Zay had 6 receptions, 60 yards for a touchdown. Aguilar had 5 receptions for 32 yards. Bateman had 2 catches for 24 yards. Justice Hill had a catch. Keaton had a catch. But yeah, again, back to the Odell touchdown. It wasn't even so much a good pass, honestly. Like Lamar underthrew it, but again, Odell made a very good adjustment, was able to still hold on to it, and then like as he held on to it, he fell to the ground and just like rolled into the end zone untouched, so it still counted. That was definitely exciting to see. Yeah, it sucked to see that Zay Flowers had 2 key drops in the game. Granted, we still were able to pull it out, but that was not a pretty sight. Both of them were just situations where Lamar was facing pressure. He tried to dump it off to Zay, and Zay just wasn't prepared either time. But again, I'm sure that's something I'm gonna just chalk it up to him just being a rookie and having to try to just have his growing pains. But one thing, and this is sort of the petty side of me, because I don't think the O line held up that well watching the game, honestly. But then again, Aaron Donald was on the other side. And one thing that the petty side of me was happy to see was that to this day, Aaron Donald has never sacked Lamar Jackson. As great as Aaron Donald is, arguably the best defensive tackle of all time, the Rams' all-time leading leader in sacks. He sacked 53 other quarterbacks in his career, and the only guy he has not managed to get is Lamar Jackson. To me, that's hilarious. But again, a game like this is so important, even though it was a very sloppy game. Lamar was like he made enough plays, but he wasn't as accurate as he needed to be. Now, part of that was because again we took a lot of deep shots, but still, this game was very sloppy. But again, what games like this do when it comes to building confidence is it shows that we're resilient because we fought adversity in this game. We can come back from behind, which is what we did in this game, and we can win shootouts, which is what we did in this game. We have shown throughout this season that we could have dominant offensive performances passing the ball like we did against the Lions. We've shown that we could have dominant games running the ball like we did against the Seahawks. We showed that we could have well balanced games on both passing and running like we did against the Bengals a few weeks ago. We showed that we could have games where the defense carries us and just uh, almost pitches a shutout and just completely destroys the opposite team that is normally known for a high powered offense, like what we did against the Chargers. We shown even in this game that we can win shootouts against red hot teams, and we can make plays on special teams, even with a guy like Tylen Wallace who hasn't had many opportunities to do anything this season. So for all the media personalities that are still doubting us, it's laughable at this point. We are clearly the most dangerous team in the NFL by far. And it's so exciting to see it, man. I didn't even talk about the defense yet. Our defense had a pretty solid game. Matabike had another sack. Travis Jones got in on the action. He had a sack. Odafe Owe, if I'm not mistaken, he didn't get a sack, but he did have a very key tackle for loss against Kyron Williams, which very underrated. Kyle Hamilton went out with like a non-contact knee injury. That's very scary. He came back in briefly, but he went back out. So it's yet to be seen what's going to come from that. Um, it was sad to see that on this game, Brandon Stevens, who's been balling out all year, who has been completely proven a lot of us wrong this whole year when we had our nervous energy about the secondary. He's completely elevated to elite status this year. But it was sad to see that this game was the first time all season he's given up a touchdown. And ironically, he gave it up to Demarcus Robinson, who low key had like a revenge game against us. He had like 5 catches for 46 yards in the TD. On that TD, John Harbaugh called the flag. Like he challenged the play, which confused me a bit. I thought he was gonna challenge like maybe a delay of game or something, because I could be tripping, but I could have sworn that they didn't. I could have sworn that the play clock ran down to 0 by the time they hiked the ball, and I thought maybe that's what John was challenging. but I'm not even sure. Either way, he challenged the touchdown itself, which was a waste of time. I'm not really sure what he was trying to do there, but I mean, it is what it is. Like the game, we got off to a solid start on offense, even though it was a bit wonky. We still had two scoring drives to start out, but then we kind of stalled out and they sort of kicked it in gear. Like again, it was just a back and forth kind of game, but we still obviously made the plays that mattered most when it counted. We almost could have ended the game in regulation if Marlon Humphrey could have came down with that pick at the end of the game, but to Demarcus Robinson's credit, he knocked it out. Puka Nakua had a really good game, unfortunately, but we still got the win. But still, he had a pretty solid game. 5 catches for 80 yards. Cooper Cup went off against us. 8 catches for 115 and a touchdown. Which sucks that those are obviously the main people that we should have watched out for, but they still were able to really just like have their way with us, low key. But again, it is what it is. I was a little disappointed with Arthur Millette. There were two key moments where he just wasn't able to handle Cooper Cup, which kind of confused me that they put Arthur Millette on Cooper Cup. You would have thought that they would have had either Marlon or Brandon Stevens on Cooper the whole game, but for whatever reason, it seemed like a lot of key moments. Arthur Millette ended up being the one in open space trying to tackle Cooper Cup or trying to guard him, and he just couldn't handle it. But it is what it is. We advanced to 10-3. Lamar Jackson's record against the NFC is 19-1. Also, shout out to Kyle Van Noy. He had a key tackle for loss in that game. That was very exciting. Roquan Smith also had a key tackle for loss in that game, like he shot out of a cannon. I think that played a major role in getting the defense reinvigorated and really motivated again to ball out. Overall, this is we're picking up momentum right at the right time. We've like when you look at the past like 6 weeks, we've scored like we've scored 30 plus points in like the past like what 5 out of 6 games. Like we were really starting to peak at the right time. I know a lot of people were scared that we were gonna peak too early. I really don't think we did. And we still came out of this game with the win. We're putting up points. And unlike this game, we're not going to keep letting teams score 30 points on us. That's not going to happen on a consistent basis from here on out. Even with us having a really tough schedule from here on out, like this defense is too amazing to let a team put up 30 points on a weekly basis. Our offense can, but our defense is going to keep allowing other teams' offenses to do that. So this is definitely exciting. I'm going to view this game as more so an outlier, obviously, because we don't usually let teams score this much, but it was still exciting to see. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. And let me know, do you think that we're beginning to peak as an offense, or do you think that we need another week or two to really get to that next level?